14th, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, and we'll call the meeting to order. It's about, I think, 6:33 right now. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? And Mr. McDermott, would you lead us in the pledge?
Okay. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Happy New Year, everyone. And we apologize again for December, but you see, we're all here, ready to roll. Uh, May we have a roll call, please?
Miss Philippe,
Here.
Miss Fenelon, Miss Joseph,
Present.
Mr. McDermott,
present.
Miss Cohen,
Here.
Mrs. Steam Irvin.
Okay. Thank you. And we have a quorum. Any changes, announcement to the audience that we need to make?
Not so much, good evening and Happy New Year to everybody. Not so much to the audience, but last time, I forgot to mention that Miss Whitney Doria is now, the senior planning technician, and she'll be the one,
Calling us.
calling us the meeting instead of, because
Okay.
Georgette is no longer with the city.
Okay. Thank you. And can we please explain the quasi-judicial process? And we could administer.
Yes. Good evening again. Those items are quasi-judicials. They may either be approved, denied, or approved with conditions. When a petition is announced, the applicant should approach the microphone and state his or her name and address for the record. Please be advised that the following items on the agenda are quasi-judicial in nature. If you wish to comment upon any of them, please indicate your interest to address the board when the announcement regarding the quasi-judicial item is made. An opportunity for anyone to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and city staff have made their presentations on each item. Please speak directly into the microphone and state your name and address for the record and your comments to the board. Thank you.
Okay. And our attorney will administer the oath.
Thank you, Madam Chair. But before I administer the oath, I would like to welcome on board our very distinguished board member, a new board member, Ms. Dottie Joseph. Welcome.
Thank you.
If I may be
Well,
so bold
well,
to have done
welcome.
that.
I thought we were going to take care of it in new business,
You-
but that's fine.
And that being said, anyone desiring to speak this evening on any one of these items on the agenda, please stand and raise your right hand. Anyone, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you provide, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you.
All right. Any amendments to the agenda?
There was a request to move one of the items forward. And if you would like to entertain the request, please do so at this point in time. That would be item V1514 FFS 135 LLC. If that could
Okay.
possibly be moved up.
Okay, I think.
And that would be the only, that would be the
The
only
only-
item that, the only amendment to this particular agenda, as requested by one of the applicants.
Board?
What's the
So moved.
Okay. We agree? All right. We'll do so. We'll hear that first.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And may I have approval of minutes from October 15th?
So moved.
second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Any communications?
Any communications regarding any board member here and any other board member or any other, or any applicant in tonight's proceedings? No? Thank
No.
you. You may
I
proceed, Madam
generally
Chair.
don't answer my phone, but
Okay, thank you.
All right. I see that we have no continued items, so we're gonna start with the new petitions, and we'll start with V-1514, and that FES 135 LLC at 2500 Northeast 135th Street. Is the applicant here? Okay, move forward. Thank you. And Mr. LeBoer, would you please?
This item is the request for variance to Article 5, Division 20, Section 5-2002, subparagraph B of the Land Development Regulations to allow a proposed townhouse residential development in an R5 multifamily zoning district to set back 12 feet from both sides, east and west property lines, instead of the minimum 30 feet side setback set forth in the LDRs for N-unit buildings within townhouse developments. Said variance to be reviewed pursuant to Article 3, Division 6, Section 3-606 of the LDR. A brief background on the property. This is a vacant property that consists of approximately 55,000 square feet. It has a linear frontage of 400 feet on Northeast 135th, and the applicant proposed to improve the property with a residential development consisting of 18 townhouses grouped in 3 blocks of 6 units each. This unit will be pretty modern and it would include 3 stories with a kitchen, dining room, an half bathroom, an enclosed garage on the ground floor, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and an office on the 2nd floor, and a terrace and a spa on the 3rd floor. The complex will be developed around an appealing modern architecture. It will meet the height and density requirements of the underlying R5 zoning district and will be well within the development parameters set forth in Article 5, Division 20 of the LDR. At the exception of the side setback for the N units, which the applicant is requesting that variance to be from 30 feet to 12 feet. We have reviewed the application according to the policy set forth in the complaint as well as the land development regulations. The property doesn't change the density in the underlying land use designation, which is medium low density, and it meets the intent and purpose. It would be consistent with the complaint. And on the Article 5, Division 20, Section 5-2002B of the LDR. So we have reviewed the application to make sure that they meet the at least 4 of the 6 criteria set for the granting of variances. If you look at the report, those criteria are listed. The first one is that whether or not special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land structure or building involved and which are not applicable to other land structures or building in the same zoning district. SAP found that the property is zone R5 multifamily, and in this district, the setbacks, if you were to develop that property under the R5, the setback should be 25 from the front and the rear, and 10% of the lot frontage, or to a minimum of 7.5 from the side property lines, and 15 feet from a side property line. But the applicant has selected to develop the site as a townhouse, and in which, after much discussion with the neighbors, and then if you look at the package now, there are some letter of support from homeowners association that are attached. They found that the density would be well within what is allowed in that land use designation, and it would be more architecturally sensitive and more compatible with the other developments on the north side of Northeast 135th Street. So this additional layer, because it's a townhome, the N units have to be set back 30 feet from the side property lines. That adds a layer of regulation that creates, therefore, special conditions which are peculiar to the proposed buildings and which are not applicable to other buildings in the same R5 zoning districts. The second criterion is that whether the unusual circumstances or conditions necessitating the variance requests are present in the neighborhood and are not unique to the property. As stated above, the unusual circumstances which necessitated the variance are peculiar to the type and use of the proposed buildings. If you look at the property east of the site, their setbacks also is less than 15 feet, which is quite short of the 30 feet side setback requirements of the LDR. And this speaks to the fact that the unusual circumstance necessitated the variance requests are indeed present in the neighborhood. The third criteria is whether the requested variance maintains the basic intent and purpose of the subject regulations as it affects the stability and appearance of the neighborhood. The requested variance for lesser side setbacks for the end buildings of this proposed townhouse does maintain the basic intent and purpose of the LDR. Indeed, the proposed development will blend seamlessly with and represent an upgraded and more aesthetically pleasing extension of the existing townhouse development to the east. The project will meet all dimensional requirements and will be in general conformity with the provision of the R5 zoning district. And while the variance from the side setback is an encroachment of more than 50% of the code required setbacks, this building will still be designed and arranged in a manner that will not create any materially adverse privacy impacts on either the similar townhouse development to the east or the taller multifamily building to the west. Another criteria that we looked at is whether the literal interpretation of the zoning or the provision of this LDR would deprive the applicants of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same zoning district under the term of these LDRs. Again, the townhouse development, immediately east of the properties, it features end building with existing side setbacks of 14.9. The applicant is asking for 12. So literally, basically any literal interpretation of the provision of this LDR would preclude the applicant from developing the site as per the submitted plans and in the process deprive him of the rights clearly enjoyed by the townhouse development immediately east of the subject property. The fifth criteria is whether the variance is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land or building. While the site can accommodate a multifamily development at much greater density and height as a matter of right, the applicant has selected to build the proposed low-scale townhouse development to be more sensitive to the context of the surrounding developments and more respectful of the valuable input of the neighborhood representatives. That variance appears to be both minimal and reasonable when considering the relative distance between the two end buildings involved from the closest buildings on the adjacent properties, as well as the development rights forfeited by the applicant in choosing to build the proposed low-density townhouse project. The last criteria that we looked at is whether the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of these LDRs, and such variance will not be injurious to the area involved. The variance requested by the applicant will allow them to improve this vacant property with a townhouse consisting of 18 townhomes grouped in 3 blocks of 6 units each. Even although the proposed development is to be built at a much lower density and height than what is permitted by right in the R5 zoning district, it will add to the aesthetic appeal of the area and will not result in the diminution of the value of any adjacent property. In fact, it will help addressing the need of the city's diverse community for much greater housing choices, even in an area primarily zoned for multifamily residential apartments. As such, the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the intent and purpose of the zoning regulations. In summary, the applicant's variance conforms to the goals, objectives, and policy of the city's complaint. It does not change the medium density of a designation of the area, nor does it alter the use or intensities. So, as well, it is in keeping of the city's LDR, as it has met all of the 6 criteria set forth in Article 3, Division 6 of the LDRs. So, staff has made a recommendation for approval, subject to the following condition: that the applicant submit a tentative plat application and subsequently an application for final plat to the community planning development, and which should meet with the approval of the city prior to seeking review and approval from the Miami-Dade County Land Development Divisions. Staff also requires that a site plan be submitted for development committee review and meet with the approval of the city. Said plan to include, among other things, location of structures, the type, size, and location of signs, etc. And another condition is that the proposed development is to attain a certified or higher designation under the rating system of either the LEED NC or the ICC 700 National Green Building Standard, to the incorporation of all or some of the green building principles listed in section 5-803J of the LDRs. That the applicant, apply for a building permit within 18 months of the approval of the site plan. That a building permit and certificate of use or occupancy should not be issued if the applicant failed to submit a photometric plan featuring lighting that is integrated into the architectural character of the development. And that the use comply with all applicable requirements of the City Public Works Department and all other county and state agencies. And those are some of the conditions that we have imposed on the application for the granting of that variance. At this point, the applicant is here, can further address your comments.
Thank you very much, Mr. LeBron. My name is Jean-François Gervais. I'm architect. I'm Director of International Design, Engineering, and Architecture. We're located at One Aventura Executive Center in Aventura. I just want to walk you through the project quickly, and then I'll be more than happy to answer any question that you may have. So this is a site plan that we propose, allowing for a 12 feet side yard setback here and there, would allow us to develop a total of 18 dwelling units in 3 similar block of townhomes. We spent quite some time with the developer to develop a product that we think will be well received by the population. And from the start, we got the feeling that a lesser density was preferable to something that would be a mid-rise project. So in this area, we could go without asking no bonus. We could go up to 21 dwelling units. The structure could go up to 75 feet. What we propose to do here is a project of 18 dwelling units that will go as high as 32, 33 feet. So we think it's a very modest, reasonable answer. This proposal was well received by the neighborhood association. We had the chance to present the project too. As professional, we really think that is the right project for the land, and we'll ask you for your support to grant this variance to make the 12 feet side yard setback instead of 30. So quickly, I'll walk you through the site itself. So as I said, this allows us to do 3 blocks of 6 units. Each dwelling units, each townhome have his own enclosed car garage, and in addition to that, I have a double stack driveway that would allow within the premises to park a total of 3 cars, which we thought would minimize any adverse impact that the project could have. As Mr. LeBron mentioned, with the exception of the variance that we asked for the site, all the other setbacks are within the regulation. The front setback, the total amount of groups of the total amount of 6 townhomes, as well as the 20 feet that is required between the townhomes themselves. I'd like just to walk you through quickly the floor plans themselves. This is the ground floor, so more or less at street level, you have a pedestrian entrance that takes you there with 18 feet wide unit that opens up to the view. One particularity of this site, which is very interesting, is it's all open to the park at the back. So we want to maximize, make those townhomes very interesting. So basically, you don't have no neighbors at the back. So there's full glass opening at the back. So the living room / dining room area, we develop a very open plan that takes full opportunity of this gorgeous view that you're going to have at the back of the property. You have, as I described before, the single car garage there. the second floor, you have a total of 3 bedrooms, which we feel is the product that will be best received by the market. And the developer is considering whether or not the market will receive the option of having half of this part done as a roof terrace. So it will depend. We want to make sure that the product is accessible. So if we think that the market respond to the price range that would justify building the roof terrace, we have the design intention to build a roof terrace at the back of the building itself. The architectural language is very modern, and we feel is very in tune with the contemporary architecture that makes Miami an exciting place to live. It's a very simple architecture. It's all about light, glass, opening. We feel it's going to be a very nice addition to your city. I welcome any question you may have on the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll open hearing. Anyone for or against this particular item? Now is your opportunity to speak.
Sorry about that. Good evening, my name is Carol Prager. I reside at 2509 Northeast 135 Street. I am immediately east of this empty lot that is being proposed for development. I'm a private resident. I'm also the president of the Arch Creek East Neighborhood Association. The developer and the architects met with myself and Alana Burdick, who owns property to the west of this lot, the Chart House Apartments, as well as a number of townhouses located along the finger streets that are west of the property as well. Ms. Burdick was unable to attend last month's meeting. She's unable to be here this evening again, and has asked me, even though you have a copy in your documents of her letters, that she have me read it into the record. So if you would allow me. Dear members of the North Miami Board of Adjustments, my family owns the Chart House Apartments at 2425 Northeast 135 Street and 2 townhouses at 13501 and 13503 Northeast 24th Place. We are looking forward to the development of this last parcel on Northeast 135th Street. As you know, this property has gone through several owners, all proposing different developments. What is most important to all concerned is that whatever is proposed is going to fit into our neighborhood, which has been developing over the last 50+ years. The current owner, along with his architect, has come up with a very good fit for our street. The requested decrease of the required side setback has been looked at by myself and some of the neighbors. Our discussion has been, as long as there will not create a hardship for our adjoining properties, we would have no objections. We believe this development would add to the diversity in architectural design and increase home ownership. I would normally be there in person, but I am out of town, which prompts me to write this letter instead and ask the Board of Adjustment to take this into your consideration. Thank you for your diligence and service. Respectfully, Alana Burdick for the Chart House Apartments. To the members of the Board of Adjustments of the City of North Miami, I am the owner of the townhouse at 13501 Northeast 24th Place, and I'm looking forward to the positive activity of developing our last empty parcel with a project that will fit into and enhance our neighborhood. Decreasing the side setbacks while not incurring an inconvenience or hardship for the neighboring properties seems to be needed in these economic times. My hat's off to the owner and his architect who created this project, keeping in mind the neighborhood, our environment, complementing the style of our buildings, and having a minimal impact on our comings and goings while adding a great look to our city street. To restate, this reduction in the side setback should be minimal when looking at the whole completed project. The reduction would allow for a fiscally sound project to be built and completed. I thank the Board of Adjustments for taking into account this letter for the above items. Best of regards, Alana Burdick. On behalf of myself, these good gentlemen reached out to a number of neighbors. I've lived in the neighborhood for 27 years. Nothing has ever been built on this piece of land, and we've looked forward to something all of these years. It's a beautiful design, and we're very excited for it to begin. I personally have no objections to it either, so I hope that your consideration tonight will be in a positive manner. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. Happy New Year. My name is Kevin Burns, 2065 Alamanda Drive, North Miami, Florida. This piece of property has come before you many, many times over the last several years, and unfortunately the previous developers, due to the economic turndown and so forth, were never able to accomplish this. I think you should grant the variances or grant the waivers tonight based upon the fact that of all the plans that have come before you in the last 6 years, this is the least one of the changes that they've asked for. The least amount of setbacks, nothing to do with the height, nothing to do with the density. All the other plans previously were asking for bigger density, stronger density, taller buildings, bigger setbacks. And so it's great that these individuals are willing to invest their money into North Miami. And it's one part of the city where the neighbors are really looking forward to a piece of property to be developed. And it looks like that they're going to develop it in the proper way. And again, excited to have them coming and building in North Miami. And again, you don't have, you know, normally Arch Creek would come out and Groves if they were against it. They're not here tonight. So let's encourage some new redevelopment in the city, and let's see if they can be successful where many others have not been. Thank you.
Anyone else? Before we close.
Good evening. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Healthy 2015. Annie Montgomery, 2082 Laurel Lane. I am very excited about this project. I think it's long overdue. And you're asking for very little. And it's very comparable to the neighborhood. It's complementary to the neighborhood. So I wish you lots of success. And I know the neighbors are going to be extremely happy with the project when it's completed. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, with that said, board discussion, I'll just say, lucky for you, you're on that side and not on the opposite side. Otherwise, we would have heard different things tonight. Any board discussion?
Yeah, I've watched this piece of property for a while, and congratulations in looking at the plans. It looks like you've come up with, I think somebody mentioned earlier about fitting into the nature of the neighborhood, and I think you've done that, where I think others beforehand have not. So I think that with the, and again, what you're asking for is minimal, particularly since the property owners to your east and to your west are in favor of it, and they be the ones most impacted by that. So, Madam Chairman, unless anyone else has anything, I'd like to move approval.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. McDermott and seconded by Ms. Joseph. Well, Cohen, Joseph said it at the same time. Any other discussion? No. No? Well, roll call. I have none.
Ms. Philippe,
Yes.
Ms. Fenelon,
Miss Fenelon.
Fenelon, sorry.
Fenelon. Sorry.
Yes.
Mr. McDermott,
Yes.
Ms. Joseph,
Yes.
and Ms. Cohen.
Yes.
And for the record, our newest member, second newest member, Ms. Fenelon, did make it to the dais in between all of the presentation. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Welcome to the board.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
you have a favorable ruling from us.
Thank you.
Good luck.
And good luck, and we're all excited.
Yeah.
And as a reminder, the approval was with the conditions indicated in the staff report, so
Of course.
everything is, thank you.
All right, next case, and we'll go back to our regular order. V-1114, Elias Elohim, Security Investigation Academy, 817-819 Northwest 119th Street. Mr. Lamore, go ahead.
Yeah, this application is for special exception to allow technical school in the C1 district pursuant to Article 4, Division 3, Section 4-302 and Article 3, Division 5, Section 3-504 of the LDRs. The subject property is a shopping center, 2-acre shopping center, the 119 Plaza, located at the northwest corner of Northwest 119th Street and Northwest 8th Avenue. The applicant, Mr. Serge Mr. Pierre, has agreed to lease from the landlord store number 817 and store number 8119, containing approximately 1,800 square feet, to establish a technical school, which, as per his letter of intent, will provide security officers with the training they need for their license. He will also offer additional classes in self-defense and rape prevention. This is a use that is only allowed by two special exceptions. It's just a technical school. It is consistent with the intent with the comprehensive plan, and then the criteria that we will use to analyze these special exception requests are set forth in Article 3, Division 5, Section 3-505 of the LDR. And as listed in your report, those criteria is whether the use is listed as a special exception in the district where the property is located. And then the answer is yes, according to, if you look at the uses permitted chart in Article 4, Division 3, Section 4-302 of the LDR, technical school indeed are listed as use requiring special exception approval by the Board of Adjustment in the C1 commercial district. And the second criteria is whether there is appropriate provision for access facilities adequate for the estimated traffic from public street and sidewalks so as to assure the public safety and to avoid traffic congestion. And the answer again is yes. The proposed school is to operate within an existing commercial shopping center along 119. The use will have a de minimis impact on traffic circulation, as it will not generate any more trips than a typical retail or office use will. Additionally, the current development provides adequate vehicular access to the ingress and egress points on both Northwest 119th Street as well as Northwest 8th Avenue, eliminating thereby any perceived or unanticipated substantial negative impact on public safety due to unsafe traffic movements. Again, the next criteria is whether there are adequate parking areas and off-street truck loading spaces for the anticipated number of occupants, employee, patrons, and the layout of the parking is convenient and conducive to safe operation. Again, The answer is yes. As per Article 5, Division 4, Section 5-1402, a minimum of one parking space is required per 200 square feet of gross floor area. So based on that number, the computed parking calculation for this use, the proposed use is 9. More than enough parking is available for both the proposed use and the other existing uses on the property. Because there's, from the pictures, provided in the report, there's a large, parking, a lot in front of the building. The next criteria is whether there's suitable landscaping or fencing alongside lot and rear lot lines adjacent to residential uses or regional zoning districts. The property north of the subject site is in it basically a well-established single-family neighborhood. And alongside those families, single-family homes, there's currently a low louver fence around the back of the property. I mean, the request concerns the establishment of a technical school, which will not require any storage or any truck delivery activities in the rear of the building. As such, staff feels that the existing fence provide a reasonable buffer between the shopping center as a whole and the existing single-family residences across Northwest 20th Street, which abuts, the single-family neighborhoods. The next criteria is whether the proposed special exception is reasonable in terms of logical, efficient, and economical extension of public services and facilities, such as public water, sewers, police and fire protection and transportation. Again, this is a use that is permitted really in that district. It will not have any negative impact on public services such as public water, sewers, police and fire protection, which, by the way, are already readily available and provided to the property. They all meet applicable, level of service standards as set forth in the comprehensive plan, and then no increase in demand of such service will result from the establishment of the proposed use. The last criteria is whether the proposed special exception is an appropriate use in the area and will not substantially injure or detract from the use of the surrounding property or from the character of the neighborhood. Again, special technical school are not uses that are prohibited in the LDR in the C1 district. Rather, they are uses that are deemed to be generally unsuitable for location in such district, but may be permitted on a case-by-case basis after reviewing possible attachment of condition by the Board of Adjustment. In light of the above findings, the requested special exception to establish that school will clearly constitute an appropriate use for the area involved. It will be in harmony with the appearance and character of Northwest 119th Street corridor and will not result in the diminution of value of the property. In the light of the foregoing, staff has made a recommendation for this application to be approved by the board, subject to the following condition: that the applicant agrees to abide by the special exception criteria pursuant to Article 3, Division 5, Section 3-504 of the LDR, and that failure to do so shall constitute a basis for the revocation of the special exception approval, and that a certificate of use from the Community Development and Planning Department be only issued upon compliance with all terms and conditions of this approval, the same subject to cancellation upon violation of any of the conditions listed in this report. Again, the applicant is here, so the chair feels free.
Thank you. Good evening, my name is Serge Perbot, and all school need is a certified instructor. My instructor right here is going to talk about the school.
Good evening, board. My name is Cornelius Drain, Jr., retired captain and doctor of naturopathic medicines. Mr. Serge Pierre obtained me to complement the usage for this building. I am the chief instructor, so I will be conducting training for the students in order to conduct themselves in a professional manner for security services and a general upgrade of character. I think that this location would be well served in this community for individuals to upgrade themselves and give back to the community.
Thank you. Anyone for or against this particular item? All right. Any board discussion? Sure.
Mr. Instructor, you mentioned that you're a captain in what?
Retired captain.
Retired captain.
Retired captain, yes.
Police department.
Police department,
Okay.
Miami Police Department, if you want to know the agency.
Anyone else?
How many students are you going to have?
That is an unknown number at this time. We are hoping for growth, and but to give you an exact number, I could not state that.
Mr. McDermott?
And your hours are going to be?
10 to 3 will be the hours of operation.
10 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon?
That is correct.
And the average class time?
The average class time
Yeah,
is
would they show up all day from 10 to 3?
yes.
Okay.
Now that 6 hours with a lunch break.
Okay.
Okay.
And my question, and I'm not sure if Ms. Fenelon has a question or a comment, but I just wanted to find out, at no time will you be providing, any type of firearm training or anything like that?
No firearm training.
That's not included.
No.
Okay. Ms. Fenelon? No?
Madam Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Move to approve?
Do I have a second?
I second.
All right. Moved by Mr. McDermott and seconded by Ms. Fenelon. Am I saying it right?
You are.
Okay.
Thank you,
Roll
Madam
call,
Chair.
please.
Ms. Philippe,
Yes.
Ms. Fenelon,
Yes.
Mr. McDermott,
Yes.
Ms. Joseph,
Yes, and good luck.
and Ms. Cohen.
Yes.
Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Shopping center. All right. And. Sorry. Our next case, V-1214, Thomas and Michelle Franco Burke, 13005 Ortega Lane.
Good evening.
Hi, how are you? Mr. LeBoy, go ahead.
Thank you. This application involves setback or rear setback variance for a proposed covered patio addition to an existing single-family residence. The applicant is requesting a deviation of 7.5 as opposed to be able to build that patio with a setback of 17.5 feet. The subject property is about 9,000, almost 10,000 square feet, and is located on the east side of Ortega Lane. And it has been developed as a one-story single-family residence since 1957. The applicant, they are seeking to improve this property with the construction of a one-story bathroom addition and an open covered trellis in the front of the house. And there, currently there's a covered patio in the rear of the property, but the applicant intends to replace that with a larger covered patio, which will be well within the height requirements of the R1 district, which is, by the way, 35 feet, and will meet all the setbacks requirements of that district, at the exception of the rear setback. And this of 25 feet in the rear, this is why, you know, they have submitted this application, because they could, to be able to build that patio. The same criteria for variance listed on the Article 3, Division 6, Section 3-606 of the city's, you know, land development regulations, where we viewed, you know, to make sure this application, you know, will meet at least 4 of them for the granting of that approval. And the first one talks about, you know, whether or not special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land structure or building involved and which are not applicable to other land structures or building in the same zoning district. The structure involved in this variance request is a 522 square feet covered patio. The applicants propose to improve their property with the erection of this new patio, which will not add to the living area of the existing residents, but rather will provide them additional shaded area to enjoy the backyard, the pool, and the canal to the rear. Special conditions and circumstances therefore exist which are peculiar to the proposed patio, which may not be necessarily applicable to other structures or residents in the same zoning district. The second criteria is whether unusual circumstances or conditions necessitating the variance requests are present in the neighborhood. Again, those conditions which would necessitate the variance are peculiar to the type and use of the proposed structure, that of the patio. Similar variance requests for patios and other attached or detached accessory structures are not unique to the applicant's property, and in fact are commonplace in most established neighborhoods, you know, throughout the city. The third criteria is whether the requested variance maintains the basic intent and purpose of the subject regulations, particularly as it affects the stability and appearance of the neighborhood. The requested variance for a lesser rear setback does indeed maintain the basic intent and purpose of the LDRs. The addition will blend with the existing residents and will not be out of character with the surrounding residents, some of which feature similar heights. With the 522 square feet additional footprint, the residents will meet all other dimensional requirements. It will not look overdeveloped and will be in general conformity with the provisions of the R1 zoning district. While the variance request from the rear setbacks represent a 7.5 encroachment, the patio will still not amount to any intrusion onto the neighboring properties, and in fact will be designed and arranged in a manner that will not create any adverse privacy impacts on these residences. That the existing fence and landscaping around the perimeter of the applicant's residence will not otherwise mitigate. The fifth criteria is whether or not the literal interpretation of the provision of this LDR would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same zoning district. Staff found that, you know, this criteria was not applicable in the case of this request. And the last one is whether or not the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of these LDRs. The requested variance will allow the applicant to improve their property by replacing an existing covered patio with a much larger one. And then that will be located in the rear of the property. This improvement does not change the use of the property as a single-family residence and will be in harmony with the general appearance and character of the subject block of the other surrounding blocks. It will not result in the diminution of the value of any adjacent property. Based on the foregoing, staff has made the recommendation to the Board of Adjustment to approve this variance request, as it will not, you know, really affect, you know, the stability of the neighborhood. And the applicant is here.
Members of the Adjustment Board, good evening. I actually had my architect at the last meeting at the December one. Because of his travel arrangements, I wasn't able to have him here, so hopefully there's no real any architect questions I need to answer here. I think...
I'm sorry, as a point of order there, I'm not sure if you stated your name and address for the record.
Sorry. Tom Burke, 13005 Ortega Lane, North Miami, Florida, 33181.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Okay. I believe Mr. LeBron's group has done a good job putting together the memo here. It's pretty clear, pretty straightforward. We're trying to put together a covered patio, replace one that we have there. It's very consistent with a lot of things in the neighborhood. It's not obtrusive at all. We've hired the architect. It's going to be done with great taste. I think it will add to the community itself. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take those now.
Thank you. We'll start with anyone in the audience for or against.
Annie Montgomery again, 2082 Laurel Lane. This is what is normally done in the Keystone residence in the neighborhood, and only that this gentleman is doing it legally. So it's, so he, I would encourage just to put your rubber stamp on this and move along. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again. Kevin Burns, 2085 Alamanda Drive, North Miami. I concur with Ms. Montgomery and what she has to say. Many times people come in after the fact with these situations. One of the things we ought to be looking at in the future is that 25 feet setback on property of the value that these residents are is a lot of open space to be left there that somebody paid for, especially when you're up against a canal. I think staff and the legal department should start reviewing, reducing that setback through our regulations so that these very commonplace situations can be addressed administratively. And once, if it's over the a certain number of feet, it comes before you. But to stay in character and to be a property that demands these type of structures to be on them in that particular neighborhood, we should start looking at those regulations. And again, I'm glad to see he had an architect. He's doing it the right way. It's refreshing, and again, it's something great for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Carol Prager, 2509 Northeast 135 Street, on behalf of Annie Montgomery. She says that this is already allowed on the front end of the property. And if they're allowing it on the front end, why not the back end?
All right. Any board discussion?
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Moved by Mr. McDermott and seconded by Ms. Cohen. Oh, yes, public hearings, definitely. Well, I didn't see anybody standing up, but yes. Closed. And if it weren't attached, would this be considered like a tiki hut or something like that? Because it's quite open.
I think they call it a gazebo. It's
Oh, well, yeah, something like
It's a
that.
structure that ties in with the architecture of the house.
Yeah.
So,
It looks beautiful.
I'm sorry?
Roll
It
call,
looks
please.
beautiful.
Ms. Philippe,
Yes.
Ms. Fenelon,
Yes.
Mr. McDermott,
Yes.
Ms. Joseph, Ms. Cohen.
Yes.
Okay, you've been approved. Good luck.
For the record, a couple of letters were just left. Oh, I'm sorry. These are the letters that were read onto the record from the first item. Thank you.
No. All right, our next item is V13-14, Apex Training Center, 12490 Northeast 7th Avenue. That address seemed familiar. Go ahead, Mr. LeBron.
Yes, this is another special exception used to allow technical school, but this time in the C3 district in the downtown. And pursuant to Article 4, Division 3, Section 4-302, and Article 3, Division 5, Section 3-504 of the LDRs. Yes, Mr. Chair, this name has come before you before for another school. This is the same applicant.
Okay.
And then this is just another school that they're trying to establish in the city. And staff has reviewed this application. It's pretty straightforward. It's located on the southwest corner of Northeast 125th Street and Northeast 7th Avenue, right here, right west of us. And we have reviewed this application again. According to the standard sets forth in Article 3, Division 5, Section 3-504 of the LDR. And then this request has been found to meet all those criteria. The first one is whether the use is listed as a special exception. Yes, it is listed in Article 4, Division 3, Section 302 of the LDRs. Whether or not there's appropriate provision for access facilities. I mean, the proposed use will have a de minimis impact on traffic on Northeast 125th, as it will not generate any more trips than a typical retail office use. It will not have either any substantial negative impact on public safety due to unsafe traffic or increased risk of fire, as the property provides adequate vehicular access on Northeast 125th Street as well as Northeast 7th Avenue. Whether or not there's adequate parking, yes, for the size of the property, this use requires, 4 parking spaces. The proposed school use requires 4 parking spaces. And the property is located right across from a municipal parking center in front of the police station. And by code, they are not required to provide on-site parking. And so they will have there's enough parking actually in the municipal parking lot that will safely and conveniently accommodate the parking needs of the proposed school use. Whether or not there's suitable landscaping or fencing along lot and rear lot lines adjacent to the property to residential uses. This criteria was not applicable because there's no residential uses adjacent to the property. Is the proposed special exception reasonable in terms of logical, efficient, and economic extension of public services? Yes, all public services are readily available to the property and provided to the property and meet all applicable level of service standards. Will the proposed special exception constitute an appropriate use in the area? Yes. This use the many schools have been approved by this board before in the downtown area, and this is a use that is really suitable for the area. And based on those, the application has met, at 5 of the 6 criteria, 1 being not applicable, and so staff has made a recommendation to approve the special exception used for that school, subject to the condition that the applicant agrees to abide by the special exception criteria pursuant to Article 3, Division 5, Section 3-504 of the LDRs, that the failure of the applicant to comply with those criteria shall constitute a basis for the revocation of the special exception approval, and that a certificate of use from the Community Development and Planning Department be only issued upon compliance with all terms and conditions of this approval, the same subject to cancellation upon violation of any of the conditions herein listed. That's
Thank you.
it.
Mr. Laso?
Yeah. My name is Stefan Larson, 12490 Northeast 7th Avenue, and I'm the owner of Apex Training Center. It's a center that's going to be open. I mean, we're already open in Miami, but we are trying to increase, we expect an increase in number of applicants this year. So we got a bigger place, and we're going to be operating in the morning and at night, 3 hours a day, 4 days a week, basically. And we're licensed by the Commission of Independent Education of the state of Florida. Any question?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience for or against this particular item? Okay. Board discussion?
I just have a question. You said you're operating in the morning and the evening. I see here from 8 a.m. to 12. What other times are you going to
We're
be?
planning to have afternoon session between 4 to 7 p.m. at night.
And if I may, you're relocating because you've expanded?
Yeah,
Is that re-
we're expanding a little bit because the space we're at was a little bit smaller than we expect an influx of applicants, so we have decided to move in that area.
Will you be operating at both locations or just moving?
The place we're moving right now, currently we are taking applicant in the first location, but we're going to be moving to the second location very soon, as soon as it's approved.
Any other questions, Ms. Cohen? Mr. McDermott? You have a question?
So
Anyone?
you're going to be operating in both locations?
No, we are taking application in the first location because we are moving now to the second
Oh,
location.
so when you move into this one, you'll be
Exactly.
abandoning that one?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Move to approve?
Second?
All right, thank you. Roll call, please.
Ms. Philippe,
Yes?
Ms. Fenelon,
Yes.
Mr. McDermott,
Yes?
Ms. Joseph,
Yes.
and Ms. Cohen.
Yes.
Congratulations.
The reason, Madam Chair, that he looks familiar was because a few months ago you approved the other
That's
location.
why, in reading the air conditioning, that's why I said wasn't this,
Has
but
not
I thought this was.
changed a bit.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
He's expanding, right?
All right, and our next case, V-14-14, Najlene Isidore, 1631 Northwest 119th Street.
As a point of order, Madam Chair, I'm not sure that
Sworn
the
in.
nice folks before you have taken the oath.
Yeah, I
Madam-
think they came in
Madam,
after.
You came in after. Are you, sir? That's okay. So you thought you were going to escape, but you're going to take the oath now. Please raise your right hand. Are you, sir? I'm not sure if you took the oath already. You did.
Both of us.
You did
Both.
not. If you're going to speak this evening on this item, please raise your right hand. There you go. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. You may proceed once the
Thank
Madam
you. And
Chair
Mr.
allows you
LeBrun
to.
will start off.
Yes. This application is for variance of both lot size and lot frontage requirement. And for this property located at 1631 Northwest 119th Street. The property is currently vacant, comprising less than 6,000 square feet, and has a frontage of 50 feet. So the applicant is seeking to develop this property with a two-story, 1,800 square feet commercial building, but given, again, the size and the lot frontage of this property, they are applying for variance to Article 4, Division 3, Section 4-303 of the Land Development Regulations to allow that lot of record with a folio number of 062126016750 and a physical address of 1631 Northwest 119, there's a typo, 19th Street, to maintain a lot size of 50 square feet and a lot width of 50 feet instead of the required minimum lot size and width of 10,000 square feet and 100 feet respectively, set forth in the LDR for lots located in the C1 district. And a second variance is to allow the proposed building on said lot to set back 5 feet from both sides, east and west of the property lines, instead of the minimum required 10 feet side setback set forth in the LDR for development permitted in the C1 district. Okay. I mean, what the applicant is trying to do, because they have a undersized lot, that has been vacant. I mean, there are other lots around the property, but the applicant do not have ownership of those lots. So they've been coming to the department trying to redevelop the site, but upon meeting with them, we look at the size of the property, and then we told them that they have to apply for variance to allow this existing lot of record to be developed. So that's why they're here today. And when they came with the proposal, after so that they can meet, the parking requirements, we had suggested that they move the building to the back so they can provide parking up front, and as well as apply for the side setback variance to make, in order to have a fiscally sound, proposal. So I mean, as mentioned in a previous, application, and the criteria for variance are set forth in Article 3, Division 6, Section 3-606 of the city's land development regulations. And when in evaluating a petition for variances, the Board of Adjustment shall find that the applicant demonstrate compliance with 4 of the 6 items as listed below. First one, the special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved. The second one has to do with whether the unusual circumstances or conditions necessitating the variance are present in the neighborhood. Third, that the requested variance maintains the basic intent and purpose of the subject regulations. Fourth, that the literal interpretation of the provision of the LDR would deprive the applicants of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same zoning district. 5, the variance request is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, structure, or building. And 6, whether the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of these LDRs. So, I mean, we look at, because this is basically 2 different variants, one for the setbacks and one for the lot size and width requirement. And we're going to look at the one dealing with the lot size and width requirements. The first criteria is met. And then if the lot is an existing lot of record which measures 5,750 square feet and was created in 1923 at a time when the city was not even incorporated and when no policies and review procedures regulating the subdivision or re-subdivision of land existed. The city's first zoning code was adopted in 1958, and the minimum lot size and width for parcel in the C1 district have been since set forth at 10,000 square feet and 100 square feet respectively, which therefore confer a non-conforming status to the lot. And as may be expected with any non-conforming lot, special conditions or circumstances have therefore arisen which are peculiar to the lot but are not applicable to other parcels in the C1 district, especially those parcels that were created under the updated zoning regulations. Whether or not unusual circumstances or conditions necessitate the variance are present in the neighborhood. The 2 parcels immediately west of the subject property, which like the latter were created and subdivided also in 1923, also cover 5,750 square feet. And they do not meet the minimum requirements for lot size and width of 10,000 square feet and 100 feet respectively. The development of these 2 properties according to the standard of the current LDR will inevitably warrant the granting of variance from the lot size and width requirements set forth in the LDR. As such, the unusual circumstances necessitating the variance request by the applicant are not unique to a property and are also clearly present in the neighborhood. Whether the requested variance for lot and width size requirements maintains the basic intent and purpose of the subject regulation. The requested variance to allow the existing lot with lesser lot size and width does maintain the basic intent and purpose of the LDR. Indeed, although the lot is undersized, it will not be developed in a way that either stands in sharp contrast with or diminishes the values of the surrounding properties in the same district. It would not create any materially adverse privacy impacts on the adjacent residences to the north, which an opaque fence and landscape edge will not otherwise mitigate. Whether the literal interpretation of this provision would deprive the applicants of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same zoning district. As stated above, the lot was created and developed in 1923, which predates the incorporation of the city, and therefore the subdivision regulations set forth in the first city zoning code, 1958. A literal interpretation of the LDR will clearly put the applicant at a disadvantage and will deprive him the opportunity to develop this property and enjoy some of the rights commonly enjoyed by owners of new properties built in the same zoning district. Whether the variance requested is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land. As per the submitted survey, the lot measured 5,750 square feet with a frontage of 50 feet. It is surrounded by a gas station on the east and another vacant lot on the west. Unless the applicant acquires the aforementioned vacant lot, this variance is therefore a necessary condition that will enable the reasonable use of the land and ultimately the erection of the proposed commercial building. The other criteria is whether the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this LDR. With the variance, the applicant will be able to to develop this undersized vacant property and provide much needed additional commercial space in the area. The development of the lot will therefore be in harmony with the general appearance and character of the surrounding properties and will not result in the diminution of the value of same. I mean, now we're going to look at the variances for the side setbacks. I mean, looking at the same criteria, the first one, whether or not the special condition and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land and structure. The structure on the lot will be, I mean, the city's first zoning code was adopted in 1958, and the minimum front, side, and rear setbacks for parcels located in the C1 district have been since set forth at 15 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet front setback, 10 feet rear setback, and 10 feet side setback. As noted above, the lot, which was platted in 1923, has only a 50-foot width, making it very hard, if not impossible, to build a bona fide, development on the side if a setback of 10 feet is to be provided on both sides. So therefore, there are special conditions or circumstances that exist which are peculiar to the lot, but not applicable to other parcels in the C1 zoning districts. The second criteria is whether the unusual circumstances necessitating the variance requests are present in the neighborhood and are not unique to the property. Again, the two parcels immediately west of the property were created in 1923 also and have the same area. They too do not meet the minimum requirements for lot size and width, and respectively, which are set forth in the LDRs. The development of these two properties according to the standards of the current LDR will also warrant the granting of variances, not just from the lot size and width requirement, but also the setback requirements. The other criteria is whether the variance maintains the basic intent and purpose of the subject regulations. The requested variance will allow the applicant to build a commercial building that will blend seemingly well within the urban context in which it is located. Excuse me. Upon review, the encroachment on the side setbacks will not constitute any intrusion whatsoever on either the gas station to the east or the vacant property to the west. It will not create any privacy impacts on the adjacent residences to the north, which an opaque fence and landscape edge will not otherwise mitigate. Whether or not the literal interpretation of the provision of this area would deprive the applicants of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties owners. Just like similar to the variance for the lot size and lot width requirement, the subdivision of the property predates the setback requirements set forth in the city's first zoning code. So any literal interpretation of this updated zoning regulation will clearly put the applicant at a disadvantage and will deprive him the opportunity to develop this property. The fifth criteria would whether or not the variance requested is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land. As mentioned before, unless the applicant acquires the vacant property to the west, this variance is the minimum variance necessary that will allow them to develop the property with a structure that makes sense both financially and functionally, enabling thereby the reasonable use of the land. Last criteria is whether the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of these LDRs. This requested variance is really necessary to allow the applicant to develop this undersized vacant lot and will allow them to provide much needed commercial space in the area. The development of the lot will therefore be in harmony with the general appearance and character of the surrounding properties and will not result in the diminution of the value of the property around the subject lot. Given the foregoing, staff has made the recommendations that the Board of Adjustment approve the variances for lot size and lot width requirement as well as the side setbacks requirement, subject to the conditions that the applicants provide a buffer, a 6-foot wall along the northerly boundary of the property adjacent to the single-family residences, reinforced by a continuous extensive 3 to 5 foot landscape buffer Said landscape buffer, which must be maintained in a good, healthy condition by the property owner, shall contain one or more of the following planting materials: shrubs, which shall be a minimum of 3 feet in height when measured immediately after planting, and shall be planted and maintained to form a continuous, unbroken, solid visual screen within 1 year after time of planting. Hedges shall be a minimum of 3 feet in height when measured immediately after planting, and shall be planted and maintained to form a continuous, unbroken, solid visual screen within. And also vines, climbing vines shall be a minimum of 36 inches in height immediately after planting. So that concludes the staff recommendation, and the applicant is here for any further.
It's a point of order. I have a couple of minor revisions to make on staff's analysis, just for the record. On page 4, the analysis portion where it states, as per Article 4, Division 3, Section 4-203, that should read 4-303 because this is a commercial property and not a residential. Instead of 4-203, it should be 4-303. And where it indicates that it's located in the C3, it should read C1. Just for the record. On page 6, as per Article 4, Division 3, Section 4-203, again, that ought to read 4-303. I know it's a small, it's off by 1 digit, but it makes a big difference in the LDRs. Thank you.
With those corrections, through you, Madam Chair. With those corrections in mind, do they change the analysis at all?
No, not at all. The only change is it's off by 1 digit. It's
Okay.
just.
But it's the same
But
criteria.
it's the same, exactly, yes.
Thank you.
It's a scrivener's error.
And would the applicant like to add anything else to Mr. LeBrun's presentation?
My name is Naglaleen Isadore, and I'm glad to be here, and Happy New Year's. I was here before. Feel like I know y'all already.
Address?
My address is 4100 Triple Crown Court, and I live in Davie, Florida, in 3330.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, I'd like to add, we've been watching this property. We've been trying to see what we could put there, and we've been meeting with staff, trying to put something there. I've been to school, and I went and got my license to be a consultant, and I just want to put people to work. I want to be able to share my learning and education with other particulars. We're going to put a real estate office there, and my father is a realtor. So also we have gotten some tenants, proposed tenants, that think the property will be a good office for them. So basically we found something that we can put there that will fit the criteria that we're trying to set forth there. And also we talked to the man that owned the little store there. He's glad that something is going there. He was just so excited. So I'm asking you today, if you will, listen to our needs and what the community, we're trying to just give some jobs and put it into a neighborhood that we know that we can draw people to share the office space with us.
Thank you.
And we also, all the conditions that was read, we will accept all the conditions. And we have been looking for a architect to, once we get approved, we will give these conditions to him, and he will draw the plans in order to put the proposed information that, conditions that has been put on to us.
Thank you, Ms. Isidore. Anyone in the audience for or against this item? All right, public hearing is closed.